Mallory Morris. So I'm here to share a story. It's a true story. Those are the only kind of stories I tell, even though my students don't believe me. And I'm trying to stall, but I'm not as good as Blessing about telling jokes in between while I'm trying to figure out how to get my tablet to do what it's supposed to do. So I'll do a little jazz hand on this side. While I attempt to make this happen. I'm going to keep that going because it's not awkward at all. Oh my gosh. Here we go. There we go. All right. So this is a true story. Some of you may have heard it before. I hope it's just as funny as the first time you heard it. I call this Weekend at Bernie's. Remember, it's a true story. This is a story about three sisters who happen to be related to me. For the sake of their privacy, I am going to change the names because some don't want to be on YouTube. So here we go. We have three sisters. You have Cece, you have Grace, and you have Ozzy. Cece is the youngest of the group. She's the baby of the group. She's the kind of person who doesn't believe in suffering for any reason, and so if there's always a solution to any problem. And so for most of the problems she has in her life, there's probably a pill that can solve it, so she is definitely well equipped. One of the problems that she has is that she doesn't sleep very well, so she always has a sleeping pill on hand. Then you have Ozzy, who is the eldest of the group. She is very put together. She is the one who comes across as the most sophisticated of the group. You definitely look up to her, you're like, wow, what a fine lady. And so you just think there's never hair out of place. She's just the kind of person who could do no wrong. And then you have the middle one, Grace, who knows how to react emotionally to any situation. So she's often in hysterics if something goes wrong. So this story takes place as these three sisters are traveling back from Las Vegas to Milwaukee. So Ozzy has trouble sleeping just as much as Cece does, but Ozzy chooses not to self-medicate like Cece does. But whenever they're traveling together, Cece feels bad for Ozzy, so Cece's always slipping Ozzy something like, it's okay. Like she'll give her half a pill of this, half a pill of that, like, just use it, it's fine, it's gonna be okay. Because she just can't stand the idea of somebody suffering unnecessarily when there's clearly a pill that can fix that. So during the course of this weekend, Cece had been slipping Ozzy stuff, like, here, you take it. And Ozzy just was not taking it. She's like, I'm not gonna do it, it's okay, it's fine, I don't really need to be able to sleep. Until we get to the airport and it's time to head back to Milwaukee. Now they had a late flight, and so on the paper it seemed as though they were traveling all through the night. They're leaving Las Vegas at about 11 p.m. They're arriving in Milwaukee on paper at about 5 a.m. Because these ladies weren't thinking too clearly, they're just like, oh yeah, that's a long flight, yeah. And so Ozzy in her head was thinking, oh, we have a long flight ahead of us. You know what'll be good? I'll take one of those pills now so that I can sleep through the flight. Not realizing that there's a time zone difference, and so that what she thought was a 6-hour flight is really only a couple of hours. So they're in the airport, they're waiting for their plane to leave, and Ozzy has taken one of the sleeping pills without telling Cece or telling Grace. And they're sitting there and they're relaxing, and Ozzy falls asleep. They hear over the intercom, it's time to board the plane. Grace looks over and realizes that Ozzy's asleep and tries to wake her up. And she's not budging. She's not budging, and she's shaking her. She looks at Cece, she's like, what's wrong? Oh my gosh, I think Ozzy had a stroke. She must have had a stroke. And Cece's like, oh, I think I know what happened here. And Grace is like, I think she had a stroke. Cece, we have got to start exercising. This is not okay. We can't live like this. After exclaiming and proclaiming that she must have had a stroke, Cece decides to confess to Grace, well, I think what she probably did was take a sleeping pill. At which point, Grace is like, are you kidding me? I'm going to kill you. You can't give her a sleeping pill right before we get on the plane. It's not my fault. I didn't tell her to take the pill. She chose to take the pill. I didn't know she'd do that right before we got on the plane. So now, here's the dilemma. Anyone who's ever flown knows that if you are intoxicated or you appear to be under the influence, they're not going to let you board the plane. And these ladies needed to get back to Milwaukee because they needed to be back at work. So they had to figure out a way to get Ozzy onto this plane. They rouse her enough, they pick up all the bags, put her on their shoulders, and they get her up enough where she's just groggy, where she can start moving forward. And in order to get her from the seats to the gate, they have physically propped her up in between the two of them. So you have Grace in the front, Ozzy in the middle, Cece in the back, and she's just anchored in between them. And they walk her to the gate. When they get to the gate, they realize, okay, she has to be able to give them her ticket, because otherwise, if we hand it for her, they're going to think that something's up. So here's their bright idea. Cece's in the back holding Ozzy's arm out like this. Grace has placed the ticket into her hand upright like this. And as they're walking her through the terminal, they just kind of slide her hand forward as if she's giving the ticket to the ticket taker, even though this woman is still half asleep. Miraculously, they make it through, no problems. Now they're headed down the tunnel. They're headed down the tunnel. The whole way down, they're holding her and they're carrying her down the tunnel. And the whole way down, Grace is like, I'm going to kill you, Cece. I can't believe you did this to me. This is unfair. You're always doing something like this, getting us into all kinds of trouble. And the whole time, Cece's just like, I didn't know she'd take it. It's not my fault. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So now they get to the plane. And Grace in front, Cece in the back, Ozzy in the middle. And of course, their seats are all the way in the back. All the way down the aisle, Cece, so they're propping her up, and Cece is apologizing, she's in the back, to all the passengers as they walk her through, just saying sorry, because of course, Ozzy is asleep, and her hands and her limbs have no control. So she's hitting people as she walks down the aisles. Remember, Ozzy is the straight-laced, sophisticated, never hair out of place one. So imagine this woman, this elegant lady, just smacking people as she walks down the aisle. They finally make it to the back and dump Ozzy into the middle seat. As Grace is climbing over Ozzy to get to the window seat, she confesses to Cece that she had to make up things as they walked down the aisle so people would not be angry with them, and tell the passengers things like, oh, she's blind, don't mind her. She has special needs, it's okay. The whole way down the aisle, she's telling people, just don't mind her. She's just, a little special. So finally, all three are in their seats. Grace at the window, Ozzy in the middle, Cece on the aisle, and Ozzy wakes up just a little bit and just mutters, my shoe. And they look down, and sure enough, she's missing one of her shoes. Luckily, it was just up the aisle a little way. So my friends, I know the message of the evening tonight is that giving is for the everyday. Unless you have sleeping pills, in which case you should probably just keep them to